Imagine this: you're a developer at a big tech company and you train an AI model to automate the company's hiring process. The AI reviews hundreds of resumes and decides which applicants the company should interview and hire. But after a few months of using this new model, it's found that the AI is sexist and it discriminates against female applicants. But how could this be? You never trained the AI to exclude female applicants. This scenario is an example of algorithmic bias, and it actually happened at Amazon in 2018. Algorithmic bias occurs when an AI system results in unfair outcomes, like discriminating against one group of users over the others. But how could one of the biggest tech companies make this error? Like we talked about, AI is trained on massive amounts of data. This means that a system is only as unbiased as the data that it's trained upon. When data is collected, it reflects the trends and patterns present in society. And if these patterns and data reflect any societal biases, the system will recognize this and magnify them in a feedback loop. For example, Amazon's 2018 hiring model was trained to observe patterns in resumes that were submitted and accepted to Amazon over a 10-year period. But around 60% of software engineers hired at Amazon at that time were male, because of the societal bias that limits the amount of women hired in tech roles. Naturally, the AI learned that male resumes were preferred candidates. It downgraded applicants who went to women's colleges and even penalized resumes that included the word women's, like women's rugby team. And it's not just gender discrimination. Think about all the ways that an AI looking at resumes can cluster or misrepresent candidates, like by race, zip code, membership in a minority union, or the languages spoken. Amazon's programmers couldn't fix their model and had to shut it down because the AI had already learned and taught itself gender bias. Algorithmic bias falls under the pillar of fairness, and AI fairness ensures that systems do not cause unfair outcomes or exhibit algorithmic bias based on things like race, gender, age, ability, or socioeconomic status. And like we said, AI cannot be designed to eliminate human biases that already exist in society and are reflected in data. So a simple solution would be just to make sure that the training data for AI is unbiased and representative. But it's not as easy as it sounds. Bias can get into AI during any stage in the life cycle, not just the training data. It can happen because of poor design choices or insufficient testing of the model. And even if the training data itself is not biased, the model can still learn our societal biases by proxy. Imagine that you're a bank officer and you use an AI model to decide who gets approved for a loan. The model approves loans for those with a credit score above 700 and rejects loans for those with a credit score below 700 because those with a higher credit score would be more likely to repay the loan. At first glance, this AI seems unbiased because it assesses all the applicants using the same objective metric, their credit score. But a person's credit score can indicate a lot about their demographic, and the AI can easily learn bias by proxy even if it doesn't directly collect data on the applicant's race or gender. So consider this: certain racial groups statistically have higher credit scores, while other groups are more likely to have lower scores because of historical factors like redlining. So, your AI model could unintentionally learn to discriminate against racial groups even if it only collects data on their credit scores. Something similar to this actually happened with Apple's credit card in 2019, which was giving women much smaller lines of credit than men. Apple's CEO himself said that his credit limit was 10 times that of his wife, even though they share the same bank account. Goldman Sachs, which created the AI model, said that the AI did not take gender into account when determining credit limits. But, just like your zip code could be a proxy for determining your race, where a person shops or what kind of things they buy can be proxies for determining their gender. So even if the AI is not trained to collect data on things like race and gender, it can still discriminate based on race and gender. And we've already talked about bias in hiring models, so let's talk about two more examples of racially biased AI systems: facial recognition and predictive policing. Facial recognition systems are powered by machine learning and are commonly used for policing and surveillance. However, these systems are known to be racially biased against people of color, especially Black men and women. A US government study revealed that African Americans and Asians faced misidentification rates up to 100 times higher than white faces. In January 2020, Robert Williams, a Black man, was wrongfully arrested because of a biased and inaccurate facial recognition system. He was handcuffed, detained overnight, and provided no explanation for his arrest. The next day, officers looked at the surveillance footage that was flagged and found that the AI had incorrectly matched Williams' driver's license photo to another black man in the video. Another example of racially biased AI is a model called Compass. When somebody is arrested, Compass predicts how likely they are to commit another crime in the future, or reoffend. It assigns arrested individuals a risk score for reoffending based on things like past criminal history or zip code. These risk scores are then used by judges nationwide to determine whether defendants will face jail time or prison time. In 2016, it was found that Compass was both inaccurate and biased against Black defendants. It was twice as likely to label Black defendants as high risk, even though they did not go on to reoffend. It also incorrectly labeled white defendants as lower risk, even though they actually went on to reoffend. Here is a real case where Compass made predictions for two defendants who were arrested for petty theft crimes. Borden, a Black female, got a high-risk score for reoffending but had minor offenses on her criminal record. Prater, a white male, got a low-risk score for reoffending but had a much worse criminal record, and he had already served a 5-year prison sentence. Prater actually went on to commit more crimes, whereas Borden did not. Here's another example where both of the crimes were shoplifting charges. Cannon, a Black male, got a medium risk score with just one prior offense on his record. Ravelli, a white male, received a lower risk score with 4 severe offenses on his record. Ravelli went on to reoffend, whereas Cannon did not. And even though Compass was found to be racially biased by researchers in 2016, it is still used in a lot of US states today. So what can be done about this? Firstly, data sets used to train AI models must be inclusive and diverse, and models need to be carefully designed, regularly monitored, and tested so that potential biases can be identified. We also need the right kind of oversight and government regulations to make sure that biases are not only caught but also corrected. And as AI develops rapidly, we are quickly falling behind on setting legal standards that protect us against biased outcomes. We'll learn more about how we can regulate the development of AI technologies in our accountability module.